Hi, my name is Sheila Karuna. Welcome to New Light Streaming Love and Sassy Seer Sheila, as this will be seen on both channels. This is the fifth element, Ether, the hidden substance of reality by Jason Gray. Ether, and he has it spelled Aether, also spelled Ether, has been one of the most mysterious and suppressed concepts in both science and metaphysics. Once considered the fundamental medium through which light and energy traveled, it was systematically removed from mainstream physics in the early 20th century. This erasure wasn't simply a matter of scientific revision. It was an intentional act to obscure humanity's true understanding of the cosmos, our origins, and our potential. The origins of ether, the universal medium. The idea of ether dates back to ancient civilizations long before modern science. It was recognized by multiple cultures and mystery schools as the quintessence, the quote, fifth element, beyond earth, water, air, and fire. Unlike the other four elements, ether was not material, but rather the unseen substance that connected all things. And I'd like to pause here to say myself, in my conversations with Lisa Risingberry of Rising Frequencies, and the fact that she is undergoing instruction to become one of the first female lamas in the United States with Bon Buddhism, they refer to the fifth element as space. But I always, in learning that with her, I always felt that synonymous with ether for some reason when I was learning about the 5-element soul retrieval ritual that I underwent. So back to Jason's writings here. Unlike the other 4 elements, ether was not material, but rather the unseen substance that connected all things, which is the same in Bon Buddhism with space. Ether in ancient civilizations. Egyptians, ether was symbolized by Akasha, the divine substance that permeated the cosmos and connected all living things. Hindus and Vedics, the concept of Akasha in Sanskrit refers to the primordial essence from which all creation emerges. It is the fabric of space-time and consciousness itself. The Greeks, Plato and Aristotle, both spoke of the, quote, quintessence as the purest form of existence beyond earthly elements. Aristotle specifically described it as the material that made up the celestial spheres. Chinese philosophy, Qi, is essentially the same as ether, a fundamental force or medium through which energy flows. Alchemy and Hermeticism. Ether was considered the spiritus mundi, the breath of the world, a force that could transmute matter and was key to unlocking the human potential. The ancients knew that ether was not just a philosophical idea, but the literal fabric of existence. It was the key to limitless energy, consciousness, expansion, and spiritual evolution. The scientific war against ether. The acceptance of ether in early science. From the 1600s to the 1800s, the ether theory was widely accepted by scientists as the medium through which light and electromagnetic waves traveled. Even Isaac Newton, though more focused on mechanics, suggested that space was not empty, but filled with a subtle, unseen substance. During the 19th century, James Clerk Maxwell developed the famous equations for electromagnetism, which originally included ether as the medium through which electromagnetic waves moved, just as sound waves require air or water to propagate. The Michelson-Morley experiment of 1887 and the suppression of ether. The turning point came in 1887 with the Michelson-Morley experiment, which was designed to detect the, quote, ether wind, the supposed movement of ether relative to Earth. The experiment failed to detect ether, leading mainstream physicists to begin rejecting its existence. However, the experiment was deeply flawed for several reasons. It assumed ether behaved like a fixed, rigid medium rather than a dynamic and fluid one. Later revisions of the experiment, which allowed for a more complex understanding of ether, actually showed evidence for an ether-like field, but these results were ignored or discredited. Einstein and the Killing of Ether, 1905 to the 1920s. Albert Einstein's special theory of relativity in 1905 officially dismissed ether by stating that space itself was the fabric through which light traveled, requiring no medium. However, in a little-known twist, Einstein later reintroduced ether in 1920 when he stated, quote, "The ether of general relativity differs from that of classical mechanics in that it is not absolute, but determined by the presence of matter and energy," end quote. Despite this, mainstream science continued to ignore ether in favor of the vacuum model of space. Nikola Tesla and the forbidden science of ether. Nikola Tesla was perhaps the greatest advocate for ether-based physics. He argued that ether was the key to unlimited energy, free wireless electricity, and even anti-gravity technology. Tesla's experiments with longitudinal electromagnetic waves and scalar energy directly challenged the scientific establishment and the emerging financial empires of coal, oil, and centralized electricity. Tesla believed that ether could be tapped into for limitless free energy, which he demonstrated in experiments like the Wardenclyffe Tower. His research was systematically suppressed by industrialists like J.P. Morgan, who controlled energy resources and saw ether-based energy as a threat to their financial empires. After Tesla's death in 1943, the FBI confiscated his research, particularly his theories on ether and wireless energy transmission. The real reason ether was hidden: control over energy and science. The elimination of ether from mainstream physics was not simply an academic decision. It was a calculated move to, 1, control the energy industry. Fossil fuels and centralized electricity systems could not exist in a world where people could access limitless energy from the fabric of reality itself. Number two, to limit human potential. Ether was not just about physics. It was the key to understanding consciousness, telepathy, and higher states of existence. By removing ether, humanity was kept in the dark about his own abilities. Number three, suppress advanced technology. UFOs, free energy devices, and interdimensional travel all require an understanding of ether. By erasing it, scientific progress was deliberately slowed to maintain control. Number four, obscure our true origins. Many ancient civilizations spoke of ether as the fundamental force that connected humanity to the divine. By hiding it, modern society was cut off from its true past and the knowledge of higher beings or lost civilizations. The greatest threat to those in power was the idea that the cosmos is alive, intelligent, and interconnected through ether. If humanity had retained this knowledge, we would have already achieved interstellar travel, free energy, and spiritual enlightenment. Rediscovering ether, the future of science and spirituality. Despite over a century of suppression, ether is making a comeback. Quantum physics now acknowledges the existence of a zero-point field, an omnipresent field, energy field that permeates space, which is essentially a rebranded version of ether. Electrogravitic research suggests that ether-based propulsion systems, anti-gravity, have been developed in secret. Consciousness studies are revealing that ether-like fields may explain psychic phenomena, telepathy, and even the mechanics of the soul. The road ahead. If ether is fully reintroduced to science, it will mean free, limitless energy for all. No more dependence on oil, gas, or centralized power grids. Interdimensional travel and anti-gravity. Ether is the missing link to technology that allows for faster than light travel. The reconnection of humanity to its true history. Ancient knowledge will be validated and we will remember our lost origins. A new era of consciousness evolution. Understanding ether means understanding how our thoughts, emotions, and spirits interact with the fabric of reality itself. The final revelation. The suppression of ether was an act of cosmic censorship, a deliberate effort to keep humanity in an artificial prison. The truth cannot be hidden forever. The rediscovery of ether is the key to breaking free from the illusion of limitation and reclaiming our place in the greater cosmic order. Ether is real. It is the force that binds us to the stars. Soon the world will know the truth. And I have to agree with Jason. I maintain that, and I have been saying it for quite some time. The whole saying of nothing can stop what is coming is a saying for a reason. It all has to do with the inevitable evolution of consciousness on this planet. And it is happening. Little by little, folks are beginning to see, sense, and feel the truth of who and what they are. So, in truth, nothing can stop what is going to happen. And it's all just a matter of how quickly I think folks can turn and look within, because that is where all the answers are. Well, I'd like to thank Jason for this, and I'd like to thank you for being here. If you feel to subscribe, I highly recommend that you subscribe in all the places that are available. I highly also recommend that you subscribe over on my Rumble channel. If you are watching this on Sassy C or Sheila, there is a link in the description box of this video. Just look underneath. If you're looking on your phone, and hit the more under description. And at the very bottom, you'll find a link. I believe I might not have put a link, but if you go to Rumble and search Conscious Conversation Central, you will find that channel. And I highly recommend that you subscribe over there as well. There's a few things that I will be uploading today that, I don't know, we'll have to see whether or not this channel gets shut off. It's happened before and it could happen again. If you want to make sure you don't lose touch with me, reach out, Conscious Conversation Central at gmail.com, and just put mailing list in the subject line. And I'll make sure that you go on my email list. I know that I've said this before for other channels. My guidance at that point was, if they want to find me, they'll find me. But this time around, I'm feeling that if it should happen, I will be letting folks know where they can find me the next time. Until we meet again, my friends, I hope that you will move towards that which brings you joy in each moment that presents itself to you. It is just a matter of your perspective and your perception of that perspective that you're holding in that moment. And also, just move to what you're drawn to. There's absolutely something there for you if you feel drawn. Until we meet again, be well.